He just wanted a clean workspace, but somehow he had accidentally proposed to a 7-foot alien warlord. The air was suddenly thick enough to choke on. Elias froze, his solvent-covered hands hovering over the living metal that now purred like an engine beneath his fingers. It pulsed with a blinding, rhythmic bioluminescence, a deep violet that matched the frantic beating of the secondary heart hammering against Lyran's ribs. She towered over him, her scales flushing a deep indigo as she stared at his hands. Her breathing hitched. The silence was absolute, heavy with the weight of a primal connection he didn't even know he was forging. 20 minutes ago, this was just a quiet moment of tidying up. Elias had found the damaged Silverian armor taking up too much room on the armory benches, and it was a mess of stress fractures and dull plating. For a human mechanic at Outpost Aegis 9, seeing broken things simply hurt his soul. It was gut instinct to grab his molecular tools and start scrubbing. Human practicality meant he didn't care about mystical traditions. He just knew the joints needed lubrication. He hadn't realized Lyrian Voss was asleep in the recovery alcove, dead to the world from combat exhaustion. He certainly didn't know that applying a biosynthetic solvent to dormant Silverian biometal bypassed a genetic firewall. It turned out combining human chemical engineering with intuitive xenophysiology created a terrifyingly fast reaction. The armor drank the solvent, the deep fractures weaving themselves together like flesh. Surprisingly, the metal felt warm, leaning into his touch like a starved animal. Elias just hummed, meticulously rubbing away the scoring, entirely oblivious to the cultural static he was generating. To him, he was just fixing a dent. Then Lyraean woke up. She dragged herself from the alcove, stopping dead at the sight of the human handling her innermost plating. A wave of emotional whiplash hit her. Her species guarded their biometal fiercely. To let another touch it was to bare one's soul. Forging an intimate tether meant only for life mates. Yet here was this frail human, casually singing under his breath as her armor, her very essence, sang back to him. The metal recognized his genetic signature through the sweat on his palms, glowing brighter with every pass of the rag. Lyran couldn't breathe. Her scales flushed with heat, a visceral biological reaction to the sheer care radiating from him. He was being so gentle. Ashurn, it wasn't dominance that made humans special. It was their terrifying capacity to care for something completely alien to them. Elias finally noticed her standing there, staring down at him with wide, unblinking eyes. He smiled sheepishly, lifting the glowing chest plate. "Hey!" Elias stammered softly, the soft lighting catching the blush on his neck as he broke the awkward silence. "I noticed your gear was taking a heavy beating. I hope you don't mind that I gave it a bit of a shine." Lyraean opened her mouth, but the heavy armory doors slid apart before she could find the words. 3 Silverian warriors stepped inside, freezing instantly as their eyes caught the rhythmic, violet pulsing of the armor in Elias's hands. Within seconds, the outpost comms flooded with breathless broadcasts. Elias's internal panic skyrocketed. He set the chest plate down on the bench, stammering a confused apology, but Lyraean simply closed the distance between them. "You did not just clean it," she murmured, her voice a low, vibrating hum that made his own heart race. "You bonded with it. By our ancient laws, you have initiated a sacred rite. You claimed it, and me." Tumbling into a massive cultural and romantic commitment through a simple act of goodwill was not on his roster. And before Elias could even process his accidental destiny, they were dragged into the harsh light of the command tribunal chamber. Commander Vance rubbed his temples while Battlesire Kalen towered furiously over them. Kalen's decree was absolute. Elias must prove he was the prophesied armor singer, or Lyrian would face a permanent exile. Elias opened his mouth, desperately trying to explain it was just biosolvent and elbow grease. But the outpost klaxons suddenly screamed. Distant, muffled explosions violently rattled the floor plating. The Chitin-Swarm had breached the outer hull. Yakuda, Elias muttered under his breath, the subtle prayer slipping out as red emergency strobes bathed the room in a warning glare. In the chaos, his gut instinct entirely took over. He grabbed the glowing Silverian chest plate he had just serviced and strapped it securely across his chest to keep it safe. The second the living metal touched his skin, the physical world vanished. A massive neural link slammed into his consciousness. It turned out the alien weapons network didn't want a bloodthirsty warrior to command it. It desperately wanted a mechanic to care for it. He felt every single defense grid, by every jam turret and every misaligned targeting sensor across the entire outpost. He didn't fight the invasion. He just fixed things. Elias mentally synchronized the firing solutions, soothing the system's frantic errors. The devastating tactical advantage of combining raw human engineering with intuitive alien biology was immediate. The outpost's defense cannons roared in perfect, flawless unison. The Chitin-Swarm boarders were slaughtered in a matter of minutes, their assault entirely broken by a human who simply organized a messy system. As the distant thuds finally faded into silence, a sprawling holographic projection flooded the chamber. The Silverian matriarchs had watched the defense grid light up. They formally anointed him the armor singer, their voices echoing with deep awe. Elias ignored the projection. He stepped over the scattered debris, his eyes locked entirely on Larian. The soft lighting caught the gentle, relieved curve of her jaw. He reached out, his fingers brushing against her flush scales, officially initiating the bond on his own terms. Ironically, the insectoid swarm thought the outpost was an easy target, but they had only managed to give him the perfect venue for a first date. The Allied forces quietly dispersed to repair the bulkheads, leaving Elias and Larian standing close together among the deactivated defense grids.